last but not least, backtesting or front testing, which is the best approach to learn the quickest. And again, it's all about balance. We can't sprint a marathon, so to say, but there's definitely a specific preference that I have when it comes to learning. Keep in mind, when it comes to learning different strategies, whether it be the price action strategy or whatever, we have the so-called backtesting, which is more leaning into the theoretical part of things, the theory. And this is the definition that I would give to it. You're looking at all charts and you're examining how certain reversals or patterns were formed in the past. You're looking at price action that has already happened. You already know the outcome. So therefore, you're pretty much always talking in hindsight. Okay? Then you've got the front testing. And this is where we pretty much apply the theory into practicality. And obviously, especially when it comes to trading, this approach, the front testing approach, even though you always need a healthy balance, this approach is what I have a strong preference for. You apply the theory into practicality, practice, just like this. Okay? I would lie if I would say that I have never backtested myself. Of course I have, most definitely, especially in the first year, the first 1.5 years. Even now, I'm every now and then doing backtesting, but that's just a marginal or like a very tiny percentage of the time that I spent on the charts. You know, the real growth, the real test lies in applying the theory into practicality. You need to understand, like when it comes to driving a car, of course, we can learn the book, we can learn the theoretical aspect of things, how to drive, how to change gears or whatever, how to overtake. We can learn the rules by heart, but then again, you don't put yourself in a situation where you're dealing with tension, emotions, stress, which eventually leads to certain other decisions which you couldn't, really experience because you're simply reading a book, so to say. And this is also pretty similar to trading. You learn by doing, you learn by failing, you learn by experiencing the entire roller coaster of emotions. You need to experience how it feels to win, but you most definitely need to learn, or you need to experience how it feels to lose as well. All forms of emotions, anxiety, tension, stress, the euphorical aspect, the happiness, but also the sadness. That's where the growth is. And that's why I have a specific preference for front testing. Okay? Because again, it's very, very simply put, everybody can win, so to say, but how do you deal with losses? Everybody can win, but not everybody can deal with losses. And that's how you can pretty much differentiate yourself from the rest. Putting price action into practicality whilst the market is moving live, that's the key to success. So for example, okay, if I would look in hindsight, even though this is something that we have done throughout the entire course, to give you examples, of course, right now it's relatively easy to say, like, yes, this is a perfect reversal because from this point we went all the way to here, of course. But again, it's in hindsight. We know the outcome of this specific trade. But why don't you apply it into practicality? Again, even though this was a W reversal, look at what's being created right now. This is something, so that was something that we consider to be backtesting. You're looking at historical price action, but now this might be a future reversal. This is something that we should actually want to trade as well. We have a move to the low, and then eventually, of course, we have a gain. Now we want to wait for a so-called retest, and this then should be a potential trading setup. If we are going to trade this setup without having seen the outcome of the result, that's front testing. You're applying the theory into practice, okay, into practicality, and that's how you learn. Because obviously, whenever you're in a trade, you're going to experience some form of emotions, different stages of emotions. If the price is going up, you will be feeling very happy. If price is doing something like this, you will first feel very happy, and then eventually when you get stopped out, you will become very sad. But that's part of life. That's how you learn. You learn by doing, especially at this day of age, okay? And in addition to the front testing aspect, please take into account as well, guys, as a beginner, you should never, ever focus on making money in the first place. Obviously, it will become the byproduct or the end result when you're taking the correct trades, when you're consistent with your decision-making skills, having a proper trading system, the rules, etc. But right now, the main focus should not be on making money, but it should most definitely be on learning, making mistakes, understand how the market moves, gain experience without losing a lot of money. you should reduce the amount of money or tuition fees as much as possible. That is the main goal, especially in the early stage of your trading career. Main goal, make as many mistakes as possible, but keeping your tuition fees as low as possible. This is the only goal that you really should have in mind. Okay, this is the correct mindset. Because again, many people, they want to become overnight millionaire. That's already, they're already 2 steps behind. Okay, you will lose money, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Trust me, it's going to cost at least weeks, months, maybe if not years, in order to become at a stage where you have the emotional discipline, the proper trading system to become consistently profitable. This is a marathon, which is a very difficult, it's not for the weak. I'll just be very honest with you. But instead of being the person that I was as well, that traded with a lot of capital, because I thought you needed a lot of capital to trade and eventually losing loads of money, keep it as low as possible. Because whether you are trader number A and you have, for example, $100 available, or trader number B where you have $10,000 available, again, there's no correlation between the amount of money that you have at your disposal. Whether you have 100 or 10k, it doesn't matter. Okay, trader number A in the course of the time can compound his money and go all the way like this. Trader number B, even though he has a potential, of course, to make much more money, this guy can also lose more money. You see? And that's something you need to understand. The amount of money that you have at your disposal does not mean that you will learn more, because the same trades, for example, if both of these people took the same trades, however, this person is more disciplined, so to say, then eventually trader number A will always outperform trader number B on the longer term. Okay, if this person is gambling and wants to make 100k or 1 million with 10k and he's over risking and he's not taking into account the risk management, he will liquidate his account and then eventually he will lose his underwear. You need to be careful, guys. Keep it simple, keep it accessible, keep it light, especially in the beginning. You need to get a feeling for the market. You need to become consistent. You need to understand the basics. Don't underestimate the basics, guys. Please, if you don't understand certain core concepts yet, rewatch them over and over and over again. Because with everything in life, the basics is the key. That's the fundament. That's how you can become more successful. But people, they want to sprint a marathon. They want to skip the basics and immediately do this and do that and focus on this type of nuance. You're going to skip steps and skip phases, and you're not mentally ready there. Okay, you're not there yet. And whenever in the course of the time you have the experience, you've got everything on lock, then you can obviously eventually consider upsizing. But that's a longer term journey. So whenever it comes to trading, applying the theory into practice and actually live or front testing, you should most definitely consider making use of a so-called trading logbook. And this is a very simple one. This is something that you can just, pretty much copy paste. I made this one in a couple of minutes on Excel, but you can also make use of Notion. There are online tools, Fiatballers. If you join Fiatballers, we also internally provide these tools to you guys, okay, both a trading dashboard and a trading logbook. So we provide the necessary tools and the resources for you to pretty much make your trading journey a little bit easier. But this is very important to understand, guys. Even though it's not like rocket science and whatever, it's very simple. You have your starting balance, you have the trading pair. You either decide whether you're going to, you're going to filter on the key data. Was it a long position or a short position? Which date, actually, very important. What was the outcome of the trade? Did I lose money? Did I win money? What was the trading setup? Okay, what was the reason for the trading setup and what have I learned? Because eventually you need to understand, if you just do this, if you take, for example, 100 trades in 1 week time, okay, without logging the data, you will, trust me on this, you will make the same mistakes over and over and over again. We don't have the capacity to capture and log all these hundreds or maybe even thousands of trades that you will take in the course of the time internally in our brains. That's not possible. So in order to become a better trader, you need to understand that whenever you have taken these amount of trades, in the course of the time, whenever you have your data, you can pretty much have a look at what you have done correctly, what you could have done better, and that's how you filter the wrong trades, and hopefully for in the future it will become W trades. Okay, so you need to understand, if I'm just going to make a very simple graph, and let's just say this horizontal axis represents, let's say, the time in months, and this is trades. Okay, so this is 0, this is, let's say, 2. Here we have 100, and here we have 200. Okay, so as time passes by, you're dedicated to the grind, and something like this happens. Okay, you need to understand that whenever you have taken, let's say, close to 100 trades a month or 200 trades in 2 months, whatever it may be, it's all relative again. You need to understand, even though you might not have made any money, maybe even you lost money, you need to understand that the version that you were here at literally 0.0 versus the version that you are here after having taken 200 trades, it's an insane difference. You have improved, you have data where you can filter on, you understand, like, you don't want to be a donkey, you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. It became much more tangible. What have I done wrong? What have I done good? You want to exploit the good trades, you want to learn from the bad trades, and then eventually, you know, just by giving an example, let's say 200 trades, okay? Out of these 200 trades, you have taken 100 reversals, okay? For example, 30 reversals were good, and the 70 other reversals, you got an L. But you identified that the reversals that all went good were at least on the 1 hour to 4 hour, but the 70 reversals that you took and you lost money on were all on the 3 minutes or 15 minutes. Even though this is something, you know, clear as day. With this data, you can already kind of understand what you need to do in order to change this ratio. So basically your data, which is factual, your data, your statistics, it's pretty much telling you like, hey, my guy, stop trading on the lower time frames. It's not working for you. Try to focus on the higher time frames, because apparently it has a higher success rate, higher win rate, and that will eventually result in more money. So then for in the future, whenever you're going to take more trades, you're going to lessen the amount of 3 minutes to 15 minutes setups, and you're going to focus more on the 1 hour, 4 hour setups, and then you will make more money. But this is a very simple example, of course, but this is something that you need to focus on. Log all these trades, give the reason for the setups, also mention the lesson learned, because this is very important. Hold yourself accountable, and then in the course of the time, you will most definitely become a much more successful trader. Trust me, guys, the version of yourself now is better than the version of yourself after 100 trades. Okay? And trust me when I say this, guys, the version of you right now will never ever be better than the future version of yourself after having taken 100s, if not thousands of trades, regardless of the outcome, regardless if you became millionaire, regardless if you compounded your account 500%, it doesn't really matter. Life rewards the people that do. Life rewards the risk takers, the doers, especially in 2026. Trust me. And also, when it comes to this graph, specify the amount of trades that you want to take within a specific time frame. For example, the month March consists of 31 days. This is day number 1, day number 31. Split it up in weeks, for example, 7, 14, 21, 28, and then just focus, give yourself a very simple goal. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Focus on 10 trades every single week, okay? And then eventually, within 31 days, you have taken 40 to 50 trades, a lot of data where you can work on, and that's how you can fine-tune your errors, your trades that you have taken, and that's how you will eventually become better. With everything in life, start doing. How did you learn to crawl? By falling down a lot. How did you learn how to walk? By trial and error. How did you learn how to ride a bike? By simply doing. How did you learn how to play soccer? To dribble, to score, to shoot a ball? By doing, by failing millions of times. Take it with a grain of salt, but you understand what I mean. Trading works exactly the same way, my guy. You have to put in the hours, dare to be great, dare to make mistakes, keep on practicing, and improve day by day, step by step, But most importantly, guys, and that is something that I would like to finish the course with, be very realistic with your expectations. Focus on the mindset. Don't want to be this guy that wants to become multimillionaire overnight. Give yourself some time. You know, be realistic. Dare to take risks. And that's the only way how you will truly, genuinely succeed. You got this.